Yep.
Jenny, just in the last page, whose life is in danger? Just the last page.
Yeah. And where's Ivy?
Yeah, Ivy's not here.
No.
In fact, let's go ahead and do it from letter A. On moving forward, and if the members of the women's choir will come and help us with that, we'll do the first verse twice. You can learn the melody, and then we'll go on. It's a zipper song, so we just changed the second line, and we're going to put in a new verse. We'll tell you about when we get there. Yeah. So the melody goes like this. 1, 2, 3. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back.
on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Gonna keep on singing?
Singing proudly.
Moving proudly, sorry.
Moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Keep on singing loudly.
Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Keep on loving boldly.
I keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Reach across our borders.
Gonna reach across our borders. Reach across our borders. Reach across our borders. Never turning back. Never turning
Gonna fight for
back.
women's justice. Fight for women's justice.
Fight for women's justice. Fight for women's justice. Fight for women's justice. Never turning back. Never turning
Gonna end the
back.
occupations.
Gonna end the occupations. End the occupations. End the occupations. Never turning back. Never turning
Gonna keep on moving
back.
forward. First verse.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Never turning back. Again.
Never turning back. Never turning back.
One more time. Never turning back.
Never turning back. Never turning back.
Now we have one more in there called Stand. The words are also in your order of service by Amy Carroll Webb. We'll sing the first chorus twice before we go on to the first verse. Stand with, will you stand? I will stand with you.
I will stand with you. Will you stand with me? We will be the change that we hope to see. In the name of love, in the name of peace. Will you stand? Will you stand with
Once
me?
again from the beginning, I will stand.
I will stand with you. Will you stand
Good morning, and welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. I'm Kathy Putnam, and I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. I especially want to welcome any visitors or newcomers to our church and call your attention. There's a special note for you. Welcome guests and newcomers at the bottom of the back side of your order of service. We have just a few reminders. We're masking inside on Sunday mornings and almost everywhere else, inside or out. The only exception is the courtyard that is mask optional. Please join us in the courtyard for fellowship, tea, or coffee during the Sunday social after the service. Also, at 12 noon, for those of you watching online, we will have the Sunday small group social hosted by Rachel Rose. The Zoom link is in the Sunday service email. Now I'd like you to remind you now to turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. And now, Mandy Hitchcock is going to tell us about an important Share the Plate.
Good morning. On this difficult day, today's Share the Plate will support the Carolina Abortion Fund, a nonprofit organization that helps people in North and South Carolina navigate financial and logistical barriers to accessing abortion care. Since 2011, CAF has provided funding, transportation support, doula services, and post-abortion support to patients in both states. They provide grants to clinics to fill the gap between procedure costs and what patients can afford. CAF is supported by a small staff that is funded solely by outside grants and volunteers who operate a helpline for people seeking care and options. Dollar for dollar, all individual donations go to fund caller needs. CAF is part of a national network of abortion funds working to help people across the country access abortion care. Now that Roe v. Wade no longer protects the right to choose an abortion nationwide, an estimated 40 million people will lose access to abortion care. Here in North Carolina, abortions are still legal in most cases. Not necessarily easy to obtain, but legal. But we are surrounded by states where abortion is now or will within weeks be banned or very strictly limited. North Carolina is expected to be the nearest point of access for abortion care for huge numbers of people across the Southeast. Carolina Abortion Fund will support any person who lives in North or South Carolina or has an appointment for a procedure in either state. In a post-Roe world, the need for supporting such organizations with demonstrated on-the-ground capacity to assist people seeking abortion care is obvious. Thank you for giving generously to the Carolina Abortion Fund today. If you're writing a check, please make it payable to the church and write STP in the memo line. Thanks.
Thank you, Mandy. Please stand now in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
Justice
The call to worship, titled The Right to Choose, was written by Elizabeth Mount, the minister at the First UU Church of Indiana, Pennsylvania. To begin, to start, to create, to undertake, to grow, to promise, to increase, to generate. These are all our birthright. As we are created, so may we create. The ability and the choice to create is sacred. To withdraw that chance from any person without their permission would be a violent act, the cutting off of life itself. And yet, as precious is the right to simply not, to end, to terminate, to stop, to discontinue, to rest, to hibernate, to impede, to prevent. These too are our birthright. For without consent, our ability to create becomes not a blessing, but a burden and an imposition. Without space for a no, there can be no trustworthy yes. Today we come to this holy place and time, ready to invoke the divine, to make space for the sacred, to co-create community again. This too is a choice. You cannot, you may not be coerced into relationship with the holy or with one another. I invite you, I ask, to join us. I respect it if you will not, today or ever. More sacred than any other individual need is choice. The right to know oneself, the right to know what you are ready for, what you need. To stretch when you can, to pause when you will. To know your body, your mind, your spirit better than anyone else. And ultimately, to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. You'll find the words to our chalice lighting in your order of service. Please join me in reading them if you wish to do so. We light our chalice for the truth of our stories. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance.
To the center line.
So if you have a solo separate, you can step to the center line for your solos.
I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid. what you're doing in the name of your God. I ain't afraid of your churches. I ain't afraid of your temples. I ain't afraid of your praying. I'm afraid of what you're doing in the name of your God. Rise up to your higher power. Free up from fear, it will devour you. Watch out for the eagle of the hour. The ones who say they know it are the ones who will impose it on you. I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. I ain't afraid of your churches. I ain't afraid of your temples. I ain't afraid of your praying. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. Rise up to find a higher story. Free up from the gods of war and glory. Watch out for the threats of purgatory. The spirit of the wind will make the killing of the sinner saint. I ain't afraid of your Bible. I ain't afraid of your Torah. I ain't afraid of your Quran. Don't let the letter of the law obscure the spirit of your love. I ain't afraid
Of your money,
I ain't afraid.
of your culture,
I ain't afraid.
of your choices. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God.
I ain't afraid of your Sunday. I ain't afraid of your spirit. I ain't afraid of your teacher. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. I ain't afraid
Of your Sabbath,
I ain't afraid.
of your borders,
I ain't afraid.
of your dances. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God.
I ain't afraid.
Of your children,
I ain't afraid.
of your music,
I ain't afraid.
of your stories. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God.
I ain't afraid of your Yahweh. I ain't afraid of your Allah. I ain't afraid of your Jesus. I'm afraid of what you do in the name of your God. I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid.
It is our custom to hold a time in our service for the sharing of the joys and the sorrows that we bring. This time, if anyone's come with either a personal joy or a personal sorrow to share, you're invited to come forward, place a stone in the water bowl, and briefly share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hodges, and about 2 years ago, my daughter married her sweetie, Baptiste Lefebvre, and they started a long, grueling process with immigration. This past week, they had their interview, and they passed, and his green card is on the way, and we are very happy because as she winds up her internship, they need some income, and he actually has a job. So we are very glad. Thank you.
Good morning. We are Don and Susan Blanchard, and we just returned from a week-long trip with our 8-year-old granddaughter, Megan, and it was a wonderful, wonderful week.
And she was delightful. And she learned how to make and play a canjo. If anybody wants to know what that is, I'll be happy to tell you in the coffee hour.
Hey everybody, Harrison and LaDonna Gray. We got married 2 weeks ago.
Here.
It was here thanks to the Reverend. It was a pop-up wedding. My mom got married last weekend in DC, and I got a job.
Good morning. I'm Mary Beth Powell. I put 2 stones in. One's a joy and one's a concern. My concern is that my sister Jana Powell, who lives in California, had squamous cell carcinoma about a year ago and had surgery, and they just found that it came back. So she's got a reoccurrence. But the CAT scan is all clear, so it hasn't spread anyplace else. So my concern is for her. My joy is that Bill and I got to go see Charlie Cast, our former minister, this week, and he's got a long way to go, but it was great to see him. Thanks.
Good morning. We're Pat Smith and Susan McDaniel, and we have a joy and a sorrow. The sorrow is that Wednesday will be the first anniversary of Pat's daughter's death, and the joy is that her son, Harper, our grandson, graduated from high school about a month ago, and he got a very sizable scholarship, merit scholarship. So we are just incredibly proud of him. And he's done so well in this, probably the hardest year of his life.
We are Susan and Alan Spalt, and we actually have 2 joys. The first, we are here for good. Our daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandchildren, as we speak, are driving to North Carolina from Seattle to their new house. And our second joy
Is that tomorrow we will have been married 52 years.
we got married as teenagers.
Good morning, I'm Jenny Warnash. A couple months ago, I announced that my son got into the Naval Academy. Well, the day has come. This Thursday, we deliver him to the hopefully somewhat loving and definitely grueling arms of the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. And he has 6 weeks of kind of like a mini boot camp, and it will probably be the 6 hardest weeks of his life. So keep him in your thoughts.
Place 2 stones. A stone of sorrow. and heartbreak, and anger and fury for our nation. And a stone for all the joys and sorrows of our hearts that were not spoken this morning. I would invite you to join with me in a time of silent meditation as we hold the joys and the sorrows of our community, of our lives, and of our world in our hearts. Amen, and blessed be.
Anna has a secret, 3 months old. Not even the boy or her family know. Singing in church, dressed in blue, just 17, wondering what to do. Now Anna is sitting at the kitchen table with her face in her hands and her shoulders shaking. Her mom is quiet, her father wrings his hands. Her 12-year-old sister doesn't understand. Small town Texas, 1923. A reputation is hard to keep. Folks smile and whisper on a Sunday, count the months between a baby and a wedding day. Anna has a secret. Anna has a secret. Anna has a secret. Anna's mother knows a doctor in town. Takes care of this kind of thing. Someone told her to call him up on the phone. By the way, our voice speaking cold. Anna and her father driving home. She feels every bone on the county road. Staring out the window and tugging on her thumb. Call the boy at the mill and say it's done, it's done. Small town Texas, 1923, a reputation is hard to keep. Folks smile and whisper on a Sunday, count the months between a baby and a wedding day. Anna has a secret. 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 Now Anna has a secret, 60 years old, never even told her children when they were grown. She cries to her sister on the telephone. She's the only living one who knows. Anna has a secret. Anna has a secret. Anna has a secret. Anna has a secret. Anna has a secret.
We worship amidst the truth of our stories. May the beginnings and endings in our stories be held in unconditional love and acceptance. As I formulated and planned this morning's service, I quickly realized that there is a lot to say that is simply just not mine to say. And so I informally reached out to the congregation in a couple of different ways, asking for reflections, testimonies. And the first two people who responded to me were Don Carter and Salem McNee. And so in this moment, I am going to cede the pulpit to Don and to Salem as we listen to their testimonies.
Good morning. I am Dawn Carter, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you the issues of choice around my journey to motherhood. An anti-choice family member of mine posted on Friday of their happiness with the Supreme Court's decision as it would stop the loss of babies for the convenience of the mother. This statement infuriated me because, as we all know, there are many reasons behind someone's decision to terminate a pregnancy. And this belief that it is for the mother's convenience is in many cases deliberate misdirection of reality. Often the choice surrounds an unplanned or an unsafe pregnancy. But what about those situations where women face this choice when a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby is the thing they want most in this world? Ultimately, I am grateful that I did not come face to face with this choice on my journey, but it was very much on my mind at one point along the way. I've wanted to be a mother my entire life. I wanted to experience pregnancy and delivery as a part of that path. So when I found myself entering the decade of life where the female of childbearing age statistic ends, with no traditional path to parenthood readily apparent, I made the choice to move forward on my own as a planned single parent. This took years, all the while the clock was ticking very loudly, as you cannot continue these paths forever. Thanks to some wonderful healthcare providers and 2 incredibly generous donors, I eventually had a handful of viable embryos, one of which became the joy of my life, and who I'm sure right now is talking up a storm to the youth staff in Water Circle. While I am beyond grateful that I am a mother today, my path to parenthood for those like me, or same-sex couples, or heterosexual couples with fertility issues is today at risk in states like Oklahoma, where life is defined now from the moment of conception. While some states like Alabama have, for now, specifically carved out IVF from their abortion laws, Oklahoma is an example of one that is not. The absurdity of this is clear when you consider the illogical status that conveys from this position. Those embryos are perfectly safe in their frozen state and can, under different conditions, result in healthy babies and children, but not while in that freezer. In contrast, putting any live child in a freezer would kill them. But in Oklahoma today, the frozen embryo and the live child are considered the same. If I lived there today, what would my legal risk be for the embryos that I did not need? What would the risk be for my provider? Having made my choices a decade ago now, I never had to consider my personal legal jeopardy, all for the want of becoming a mother. Because of my geriatric maternal age, I was required to undergo genetic testing during my pregnancy. This is where the termination choice was front and center for me during the time between when my tests were performed and when I got the results. What if I, as a single mother nearing 50, were given a terminal diagnosis, or a severe diagnosis that at best would mean my baby would have to undergo extensive, invasive treatment just to survive? What if carrying that baby to term meant that my clock ran out before I could attempt another pregnancy? Not only would I be mourning the terminal pregnancy, but I would be mourning the baby that would never be. Though never forced to make that choice, there are a growing number of parents who do. Both from my involvement with perinatal hospice programs as well as serving on the NICU Parent Advisory Board at UNC, I know that some parents face the decision of carrying a terminal pregnancy to term or ending it. A heart-wrenching choice either way. I am a strong advocate that parents who choose to carry such a pregnancy to term be given full support and allowed to honor their wishes for how to deliver and how to spend any moments they might have with that baby. At the same time, it is unthinkable to me that our government, particularly when so many of those making the laws, or in Friday's case, those deciding the law, don't even have a uterus, can demand that a mother carry a terminal pregnancy for weeks and weeks. How dare we think that we can make that choice for anyone? And for the extremely severe diagnoses, we take away the choice those mothers have to end that, yet we have no problem forcing them to watch their precious babies undergo painful, invasive treatments, often for the rest of their lives. No, this is not about convenience. This is about gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, no good alternative decisions that are at the very heart of our personal experience. How dare we take that choice away from anyone?
Hi, I'm Salem McNee. In 1974, the year after the Roe versus Wade decision, I had an abortion. I was 16 years old. I was a junior at Chapel Hill High School back when there was just the one. I came home on the school bus one day craving mashed potatoes, and I made myself a family-sized bowl. I ate the whole thing and then threw it up. And I'm hazy on the details now, but I don't know if that tipped off my mom. But I do remember that when my mother realized I was pregnant, she set up the appointment, took me to Memorial Hospital for the abortion. There was no angst, as I recall, just a matter-of-fact approach to a teen mistake. Here's the thing. The person who made sure I would not be a mother at 17 was the woman who gave birth to me at age 17. Although my mother never actually said to me, "I'm doing this so you don't have a life like mine," we kids had heard the stories all our lives, being told she couldn't walk the stage at high school graduation with the other students, even though she was top of the class, being treated like she had an awful disease the other girls might catch. Even being married, which she was, having a baby in your senior year of high school is life-changing, and she did not want that for me. I don't know how many of you were raised by teen moms, but no one who was would argue for more teen moms. Dealing with newborns and small children takes patience and self-denial that a 17-year-old is years away from having. My mother was a brilliant woman, well-read, a visual artist, a professional quality singer. She always wanted to be an archaeologist, but she had to put off college until all three of her kids were in school. And she worked as a proofreader until her death at age 78. Her talents stayed strictly hobbies, but who knows what she would have done with them if she had had access to birth control. Unlike Mom, I was able to go straight to college, have a career, and then have children when I was more mature and not scrambling to make ends meet. I wasn't wistful about business lunches in power suits or about nights on the town. I had had those, and I knew they weren't as much fun as they looked like in the movies. It's huge to have regular paychecks, stable housing, a washer and dryer, a reliable car, health insurance, and the maturity to realize how wonderful it is to be raising children. Becoming a mother was like seeing a staircase in my heart that I had never noticed before, that led to a whole upstairs floor I never knew was there. Every one of my children added their own new floor to my heart, and I was able to appreciate it and enjoy being their mom. Being financially stable also meant having childcare and all the enrichment activities we could afford. When my daughters hit their mid-teens, I made appointments in the same matter-of-fact way as my mom and got them on birth control, even though they were not yet sexually active, because Mom doesn't get a formal memo when that happens. There was no pill available for my son, but luckily he survived his teens and now most of his 20s without any accidental offspring. I could do a whole hour on what they have accomplished, but I'll just say I'm glad I brought them into the world, and they take my breath away with what they're doing to make the world a better place. I've watched the rise of the anti-abortion movement with dismay, as politicians cynically use it as a hot button to build their power. It's chilling to think how different my life would have been without Roe versus Wade, and of the fact that these three amazing people would not even exist. I hope the setback this week creates enough energy around the issue to end in finally having the right to choose codified in federal law. Thanks for the opportunity to share this story.
This week's Share the Plate offering for the Carolina Abortion Fund, a very important collection, will be generously given and gratefully received.
I stand for the life of the unborn child of the woman who wants it. I stand for the life of the woman who doesn't want it. I stand for the life of the unborn child of the woman who wants it. I stand for the life of the woman who cannot finish school, cannot keep a job, cannot stay at home, can't feed another child. I stand for the life of the unborn child of the woman who wants it. I stand for the life of the woman who doesn't want it. I stand for the life of the unborn child of the woman who wants it. child she is, if she were to bear a child. We will break the laws you make, as we have for centuries. Some of us will try to heal ourselves, some of us will die, as we've always died. Who stands for life? Who stands for life? I stand for the life of the child in this world as we've made it. I stand for the life of the child who doesn't make it. I stand for the life of the child in this world as we've made it. I stand for the life of the child who cannot read or write, cannot follow, cannot finish school, isn't fear of We will break the laws you make, as we have for centuries. Some of us will try to heal ourselves, some of us will die, as we've always died. Who stands for life? Who stands for life? I stand for the unborn like a child who wants it. I stand for the life of the woman who doesn't want it. I stand for the life of the unborn child of the woman who wants it. I stand for the life of the woman whose life is in danger because her future is her life. Whose life is in danger because her future is her life. Whose life is in danger because her future is her life.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Salem. More sacred than any other individual need is choice, writes Reverend Elizabeth Mount. The right to know oneself, the right to know what you are ready for and what you need, to know your body, to know your mind, to know your spirit better than anyone else, and ultimately to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. Our faith affirms choice. Our faith has always affirmed choice. Our faith has always affirmed choice in terms of religious freedom, freedom of belief, and freedom of conscience. Our faith has always affirmed choice in terms of reproductive choice and bodily autonomy and the inalienable right to choose what happens to our own bodies. Choice is essential. More than that, choice is sacred. And this week, the Supreme Court of the United States has violated your religious liberty. The Supreme Court of the United States has violated your bodily autonomy. And the Supreme Court of the United States has violated your human rights. Period and full stop. The Supreme Court of the United States has violated your religious freedom, your bodily autonomy, and your human rights. We all know that pregnancy and the decision to have a child is not without serious physical, emotional, economic, social, and spiritual risks and consequences and dangers. We know physically pregnancy is intense and carries many risks. Krista Westerfelt, a member of our church who just a few weeks ago moved to Tennessee to study for the ministry, shared with me a piece she wrote about her 3 pregnancies. She describes the physical hardships that she encountered, which included having to leave her job because of exhaustion, having to be on bed rest, experiencing heavy bleeding, experiencing drops in blood pressure that caused her to pass out, having to take medication that made her heart race, and experiencing an injury from delivery that required thousands of dollars of physical therapy and made her unable to drive a car for months. Krista writes, quote, "And even all that was mild in comparison to what could have happened. I have 3 kids. Those 3 pregnancies and births have only strengthened my resolve that no one should be forced by the state or by anyone else to continue a pregnancy against their will. No one, not one person, not ever." We know there are times, even when a child is planned and wanted, that the risks to the mother's health is too great to warrant the continuation of a pregnancy. We know there are times, even when a child is planned and wanted, when the fetus develops in such a way that is not conducive to life. Decisions to terminate a pregnancy must always be able to be made by the pregnant person in consultation with those qualified to give medical advice. Those decisions must not belong to the state. And beyond the physical risks of pregnancy, there are a host of other factors a person may consider: economic factors, social factors, and more. And we know this is especially the case in a country like ours, with rates of maternal and infant mortality that are much higher than other developed countries. It's especially the case in a country like ours with scandalous rates of poverty. It's especially the case in a country like ours where so many workers lack anything resembling decent paid parental leave, where childhood and preschool are often unaffordable. Heck, where we can't even keep baby formula on the shelf. We know that studies show that abortion access is positively correlated to educational attainment and reduced rates of poverty. I offer these reasons: physical, economic, social, educational, for why a person may decide to terminate a pregnancy. But actually, forget all of that. Forget everything I just said, because a pregnant person doesn't need a reason. It is their body and their decision. They don't need to explain it or defend it or justify it, not to me, not to anyone, and especially not to courts or legislatures. It's nobody's damn business but their own. It is nobody's damn business but their own. As your minister, you've trusted me with a free pulpit, and you've called me to speak the truth as I see it without fear or fervor. And that's what I'm going to do. This week I got a new book. It's entitled, it's kind of a sarcastic title. It's I Know What's Best for You. The book is an anthology of writings about reproductive freedom, edited by Shelley Oria. And Shelley Oria's previous book was an anthology of writings about the Me Too movement. And what's striking to me as I sat reading through this book this week, what's striking to me is that they don't seem like two different books, that actually the overlap between them, the main characters in them are the same. And it occurs to me that we should probably understand in this moment the Supreme Court through the lens of abuse. We should understand the Supreme Court through the lens of abuse. This isn't a stretch. Just ask Anita Hill about Clarence Thomas. Just ask Christine Blasey Ford about Brett Kavanaugh. And don't ever forget that 3 appointments to this court, 3 decisive appointments to this court, were made by a president accused of abuse by at least 26 different women. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about living in a country where the government, at the federal level or at the state level, often plays the role of an abuser. Let's talk about what it means when the Supreme Court functions as an abuser. Because I think that's the most accurate lens. Fear, anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness, despair, passivity, numbness, and surrender those are the clinical feelings a person feels when they are in a relationship of abuse. Abuse is a form of control and is a form of destruction of the soul. And resistance and liberation are about the struggle to take back control. They are about reclaiming the soul. This morning in Portland, Oregon, Unitarian Universalists are wrapping up their week-long General Assembly. And I was struck by something that our Unitarian Universalist Association president, Susan Frederick Gray, posted on social media earlier this week. It was a quote. It wasn't a nice quote, it was an aggressive quote by Indian author Arundhati Roy. Here's what Susan Frederick Gray posted. Quote, "Our strategy should be not only to confront empire, but to lay siege to it, to deprive it of oxygen, to shame it, to mock it with our art, our music, our literature, our stubbornness, our joy, our brilliance, our sheer relentlessness, and mostly with our abilities to tell our own stories. Stories that are different from the ones we're being brainwashed to believe." So that is my message on this hard morning. In this time of regression, in this time of loss, in this time of abuse and control. First, we should understand what it means to live in relationship to an abuser, because that is the role in which our court and in many state legislatures are operating. Our political and our social response should be informed by that understanding. Second, we must not give in to fear, despair, hopelessness, helplessness, or numbness. And if you find yourself going there, and you will, just try to make sure that it's a short visit and not a permanent relocation. Because that is where abusers want you to live. And third, remember that resistance is what leads to liberation. So be bold and brave. And know that truth and right, the truth of your own story, always dwells within. The truth of your own soul always dwells within. I want to close this morning with a passage from a poem by Marge Piercy. Marge Piercy writes, "I will choose what enters me, what becomes flesh of my flesh. Without choice, no politics, no ethics lives. I am not your cornfield, not your uranium mine, not your calf for fattening, not your cow for milking. You may not use me as your factory. Priests and legislators do not hold shares in my womb or my mind. This is my body. If I give it to you, I want it back. My life is a non-negotiable demand. Your life is a non-negotiable demand. Demand it. Keep demanding it. Never stop demanding it. Amen. Let's sing together. Let's sing together. Closing is I Am Willing by Holly Near, and I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing.
Before we sing the song, I wanted to say, similar to Reverend Thom, I felt I reached out to the women of the choirs to ask about the music today, and all the choices of music today were made by the women of the choir, some of whom were here, and some I just wanted to thank Ruth Gibson and Deborah Klinger and Gray Brown, as well the women who are here and Jenna and Ivy for coming up with such wonderful choices for music today. And now we're going to sing one last song by Holly Near. We'll sing the first chorus through twice so you can get the melody.
Open, and I am willing.
Well, I think after this week, we have all appreciated everyone who made this service a possibility. The words for extinguishing the chalice are in your order of service. Please join me if you wish to do so. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As we join to sing Shalom, just a reminder, if you want to hold your hands with your neighbor, put your hands out, and if not, cross them over your heart. Shalom, shalom.